Good evening. Welcome to tonight's school board meeting. It's Monday, May 23rd, 2022, 6 o'clock. We're in the Susan Tully Latchley Ward of 1887 building. Let's call the meeting to order and ask
Mrs. Fisher?
Here.
Ms. Gayhart, Mr. Gayhart?
Here.
Mrs. Ingersoll?
Here.
Mr. Martell?
Here.
Here.
Mrs. Ray?
Here.
Mr. Scarrow?
Here.
I'd like to excuse Manny Stoltz and wish her well at her regional track meet. And Ms. Borfe.
All right, we do have a quorum. We will continue, and I will note that tonight's meeting has been noticed for state statute. Do we have any community participation on the agenda?
I have not received any.
Seeing none, we'll dispense with reading that and go to the Career and College Academy student presentation.
Thank you so much for having us today. We not only brought friends, but toys. And I think that's the best of both worlds. And I will turn it over to Jennifer Taylor, our math teacher. But I have to say, kind of the best learning happens when you're playing. And certainly when we're able to do hands-on work tied to what our students are going to see in the workplace, it's definitely the trifecta there. So Jennifer Taylor.
Thank you so much. Do you mind if I stand? I do better talking when I stand. So thank you for having me. I'm Jennifer Taylor. I'm the math teacher and the special ed teacher at the Career and College Academy. I've been there 7 years. Blessed to be working with the small but mighty team that we have. About 4 or 5 years ago, pre-COVID, I was invited by Gateway to attend an NC3 certification where we would be trained and certified by NC3 instructors, which is a national coalition of certifications program in precision measurement. I took part of that. It was wonderful. Through Gateway, we were allowed to use the tools that Gateway had to give our students certifications. Well, last year I went back, thought I would re-up my knowledge, and in doing so, realized that it would be beneficial to our students if we had our own tools. And the toolbox is about yay big. You know, if I had done my measurements like I should have, I could tell you exactly, but it was big and it was heavy. And it comes with 6 precision measurement drawers that all relate to either carpentry, machining, or automotive. And we can get certifications, all 6 certifications, or students can pick and choose their certifications based on their pathway that they want to go into. And so it's very exciting. We located the money. I wrote a small mini grant as a transcript and credit teacher. I wrote a mini grant, which gave us $5,000 towards our tools. And they came last week, so I was very excited. Amy Loudenbeck came and was able to see my tools the day after I think they arrived. One of the advantages having our own tools is students get on the job training with how to use them, how to evaluate that they're good for what they're going to use them for, and the history behind the tool. So I brought some of my tools. Students will learn both metric and standard, so they can go overseas. They can work with any measurement that we need to 64ths of an inch, which is very impressive for students when we think about fractions as a math teacher, dreaded fractions. So they learn slide calipers. They work with micrometers. We get 3 different sizes of micrometers that we get to work with. A lot of things dealing with angles. That's where our carpentry comes in. The basic standard 6-inch rule, which is always important. And even I, after 48 years of living and having a brother and a father who loved construction, I did not know some of the things that appear on your tape measures, like where studs are and things like that. So very, very neat opportunity. The students learned that my tools are protected, so we wear gloves to avoid those rusters who will rust my tools because they have that grease on their hands. And of course, all of our tools are calibrated on the job site to be able to be used appropriately, because as Roga will tell you here in a minute, if we're using an inappropriate tool on the job site, doors won't get hung correctly, windows won't close correctly, floors will creak, and things will roll that way, like my pool table does. So, you know, that's what we have to think about. So I'm very blessed that we were able to come up with some finagling way to get the money to be able to afford the tools and have them on our site. It allows us to certify our kids free of charge with just the training that I did that Gateway paid for. So I'm very thankful. And I want to thank Dr. Demrath and Mr. Tadlock for,
Not my forte.
no, right. But this is math
Yeah.
with a purpose.
Yes.
And as a math teacher, this is very exciting. And you see those Facebook posts, hey, math teachers teach your kids how to read a ruler. It's very impressive how students can learn to read fractions easier when you're applying it to measurement. So it's very exciting. So Roga, why don't you introduce yourself and just let them know what you're doing. Came right from work, just called and said, can I come in my work clothes? So go ahead, let them know what you've done and what you're doing now.
So I've been doing construction for about 5 years, and about 3 years I didn't know how to read a tape measure, so I joined Career College Academy, and Ms. Taylor helped me out with certifications, and with that certification, I could go to any store, buy any tape measure, and I would know how to read it. And it's honestly really useful to have these certifications because you need them on a day-to-day basis. And I'm just happy and thankful for the opportunity that I got.
Thank you. And Roga is one of our graduating seniors this Friday. So I'll be reading his name. I have to bug you before you leave about how to read it appropriately. So thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I was gonna ask. Yes, we put all of that knowledge to very good use. He was a big leader.
Any questions about that? They are Starrett Snap-on tools, protected, locked, taken care of. And again, students will learn appropriate use because that's what they last longer, longevity of the tools. So very excited about the students who that can go and use them in their apprenticeships, or just, it's amazing how many come back and say, I helped my mom measure for floors the other day. So it's exciting that it opens those doors for them. So thank you so much for having us. Question?
Maybe could you speak to is it Act 59 or Act 53 and how that,
The CTE. grant.
how that
So-
works with the precision measurement or the certifications as well?
So, our Act 59 money, when students gain certifications, technical diplomas, things of that nature, DPI has reimbursement for us with that. And for the Snap-on tools, it is multiple certifications that students have to achieve to be able to get that reimbursement. And so the idea that we are able to use grant funds to help us pay for the tools is wonderful, but then that will continue to fund not only Mrs. Taylor's training, but also expanded CTE programming in our school, because we are so interested and invested in getting students into the workforce and being trained. So they get that step above other individuals just going into the workforce. So it's wonderful.
It's up to $1,000 per graduate. Now, if they earn multiple certifications, it's still just
And only
one
in their
that
senior year.
counts, and only their senior year. But even that gets prorated. They take the pool of money and gets divided by how many seniors graduate that year. But the state did up that amount to get it back up close to 1,000. But I think it was around roughly 800 and something last year, or, yeah. So it gets prorated out, but it can be up to 1,000.
And the intention is that we're offering this at a universal level to all students. Crosswalk not only to careers, but also to the applied math curriculum that Jen has also become a transcripted credit instructor through Gateway. So she is teaching the first 2 applied math courses that is required for, I'm gonna say, just about.
I looked at most of them today. So welding, even law enforcement requires either applied math or quantitative reasoning. So we're starting to get kids into the programs where specific math is required. So now I can meet their needs with some hands-on tools for the applied math piece anyway. The quantitative reasoning class I don't teach, but I do have quite a few students taking it as part of their programming. So it's kind of cool to see where they go once they get through the algebra, geometry, algebra 2 pathway, because we can do the hands-on approach or we can do the statistical approach, and some of them are even taking pre-calc now. So it's a very exciting time.
Is there a certain level that you teach that at? Because I know you have all 4 grade levels now.
This year I taught it across the board. If you
Okay.
came in, and so
As a freshman, you still have to
Yeah.
do math.
the freshmen got stuck after the first part of applied math because there's a lot of trig and really more difficult algebra in the second part of applied math. So what I did is I let them take the first part and then pulled them back to do their algebra and geometry. They'll take the second part then probably their junior year. I did have quite a few seniors who I talked to today who want to take it their senior year because it applies to their welding program or
Right.
something they're taking at Gateway.
And it's just great to be able to offer that. That's kind of always been our goal, that there's no stumble when they do graduate and go into any technical college program, that we know that they're English, because Maggie Green is teaching writing principles that's taken care of in our school building. And Jennifer's nice words.
And each certification takes about 3 hours plus testing. When you test, take 20 to 30 minutes if you try your best. So we'll be offering the certifications to every student who would like to take them in July, because we're in school in July. And because I have 10 tools per drawer of every tool, so I have 10 of everything you see there, plus I bring everything. I can take 20 students at a time, 2 students to a tool. They recommend no more than that. So, yeah. It's very exciting. And the networking alone, I was the only high school teacher at the training. All of them were either like technical college instructors trying to get certified and get their own tools. So I kind of had that door in already. But now I can admin my own students. So for the last 4 years, Gateway's been adminning for us, letting us use their tools, putting our students in, doing all the pre-work. Now I can do all that. I could put my students in, I can manage it if they can't get into the program, things like that. It was always relying on Gateway before, so.
Thank
So,
you.
yes.
But I like how you're talking about putting the tools away, taking care of them, because a husband is a mechanic. And why do you think they buy these $1,000 toolboxes?
Yep.
It's not because it's beautiful, it's because they want to take care of their equipment, right?
And I already have the oil that Starrett recommends that we treat them with. Notice that I'm even gloved up to handle them. And that's what I want students to understand, is that they get to use them. It's a privilege to use them. So we're going to treat them with respect, just like we would on a job site. Treat your tools with respect or they won't last,
Right.
or they won't do what you need them to do. So that's important. Just like their Chromebooks won't work if they don't charge them. We've all learned that. You know, just a little side note. It is the end of the school year. Sorry.
Our daily conversation.
You know,
We don't even know that we're
you know.
putting that in there, so.
But thank you. I appreciate the time Dr. Demereth asked who'd like to present, and I was all excited because the tools just came and nothing like Christmas in May. It's very cool. I was actually showing some students today, and I think they're excited about July because of what they'll get to play. So, yes.
Awesome.
So thank you.
And you're always so excitable. I love it.
Thank you for your.
Come visit anytime. This is me, even at 6 o'clock at night. This is me.
Math at the CCA,
Yeah.
so like, how can you not love it?
Yeah. Mr. Tadlock can account to that. Dr. Demereth can do my evaluations from down the hall. I'm excited, I'm passionate.
I can be in my office and
Yes.
you're like, okay, I know what she's doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's so great.
But I do love what I do, and thank you for the opportunity to all of you. So,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Roga, thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
and the tools. Come on up, Roga.
Roga, where are you working?
I currently work with Lunar Roofing.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
He actually done a couple of our
I think you were.
Oh, awesome. That's good to know. Very cool. Good. Thank you, though. You're so kind. Yeah, you can. I'm
not wearing gloves.
No, don't put the gloves on. You don't need the gloves. By the way, these are gonna be locked in my car overnight. I think I startled the cleaner guy over there. Guess I'll let Rogan carry it out. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
No, no purse. Purses are just extra baggage.
I love her. Oh, yeah. From day one.
K-12 student parent handbook.
So that's why I love coming to school board meetings. Yeah.
All right, I will go through, we don't have a lot of significant changes being proposed, but we'll go through and we have the, let me go back to the beginning. And the proposed changes should be highlighted in blue, however, also hyperlinks are highlighted in blue. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a change.
Right.
All right. This was a statement that was requested to be added by our Director of Pupil Services, Emily Lynn. She felt that it just, and the Pupil Services team felt that it would just help emphasize that overall mission and incorporate that they have.
Okay, so this isn't replacing another,
It's an addition.
it's an addition.
I'll go through quick. If there's something you want me to stop on, just let me know. Update to the names. The learning curve was purchased by the Kitty Cottage. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. I'll let you know when you get to it. There we go. Unfortunately, just to help squash rumors or whatever, that the principals would like to add this language there, that
Yeah.
costumes are prohibited outside of expressly designated dress up days. I don't think it's a rampant issue, is it, Lauren?
I don't see it as a
Yeah.
issue,
But
I could be wrong.
referring back to my email, we don't
Yeah.
have furries running around the schools. We don't have litter boxes in the schools. But in case someone decides that they want to wear a costume to school, it would only be allowed on designated days. Again, both levels being implemented there.
Right. SST is so cool.
Yeah, they just call it study hall.
Remember when we went to SST?
Can you just,
From study hall.
so an separate organization grade, where we're putting using this rubric in study hall. So there's a grade? for
We
study
have
hall?
the employability skills rubric,
Okay,
which is utilized, so it's not a grade that factors into their GPA on the transcript, but it's basically a behavioral type grade. And so the hyperlink is there, but they would also include an organizational grade in there. So it doesn't factor into their GPA, but it's kind of like, yeah, like the comments.
got it.
So it takes over like what we're used to in the elementary, where all the teachers can hammer everything, like, the whole idea was to give parents more information.
Got it, okay, I understand now.
All right, the high school would like to add this in here. They actually have more detail. I know Jenny had asked a question related to this. They have a number of, it's more efforts that they do to get the kids to complete the work and get the work completion done. They don't want them to just blow off the formative and then just say, okay, I'll retake the test now. There's some steps in progress
Okay.
that they have to do in order to demonstrate that they've done the relearning. I don't know, Lauren, if you have anything to add to that.
I think like the late formatives up until the summer is fine. Like that's a good idea because kids like turning it in at the end of the trimester when it was from the beginning.
When you've already taken the test on it, right?
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
And my question was on the behavioral consequences, so Sarah Rash
Yeah.
linked and sent me all the things of what's working for staff and teachers and what's recommended.
We could ask them to hyperlink that because they actually have a whole chart.
Yeah, she
of-
sent
I
me
think that would be a good
I
idea to
mean,
have that paper.
Once I saw that and I knew what that meant, it made sense, but just
Yeah.
reading through it the first
Yeah.
time on a Friday night, I was like.
So Jody, let's take
Yeah,
the
I
the
kinda
chart
have the
that
same
they
question.
created and hyperlink it on the behavior consequences portion. So then parents can have an idea of what that looks like. this is a statement related to physical education class. And wearing jewelry, basically not wanting them to wear jewelry, just like any other activity that they're doing in sport where you could get caught on something and rip out of the ear and such.
Right.
Okay, this is the high school language as well, related to the retakes and
Zoom.
Oh, yeah, just changing your voice.
okay, yeah, Alan's retirement. We do utilize, previously, we had just utilized Credence Therapy, the capacity and the need that we have and helping provide access to mental health services here at school. We wanted that to be
Statewide.
more agnostic so that
Sure.
Right.
it's any
That makes
company or
sense.
organization, yeah. We wanted to change, they wanted to change that language from to students below grade levels, because very well may not be a struggling learner, it could be someone
Yeah.
that due to number of circumstances just
Yeah.
worked in school or didn't have
Could
that.
we even
contact.
hyperlink the, Children's Hospital Urgent Center that just opened? In the mental health?
Yeah, up here in the mental health, let's make a note to list, to basically put a note in there for families to refer them to it.
Yeah, I know when Chris was here last, he was talking about having the statewide, like 50 some, I mean, it'd be nice eventually to have that all hyperlinked in there. Or on the weekends, they don't have to contact the school.
Yeah. All right, Joey, let's make note of that. Get with Emily and maybe we can hyperlink the mental health service providers, especially those available in off hours, so that parents, yeah, they might remember seeing it there and they can hyperlink to it right from our handbook.
That's the last one.
I believe that's it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think 31 was the last, page 31 was the last one.
Okay. So we're looking to actually approve the handbook. We don't do true readings on that one,
Yeah.
subject to the modifications discussed.
Is there any questions, Mr. Taylor? Hearing none. A motion.
I move to approve the, last my page, 2022-2023 K-12 Student Parent Handbook as modified.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
So moving and seconded to approve the 2022-2023 K-12 Student Parent Handbook as modified. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart?
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll?
Yes.
Mr. Martell?
Oops, sorry. Yes, I had the mic off.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow?
Yes.
Ms. Vorpagel?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Grant writer position.
We're set?
We're set.
All
Go ahead,
right,
Mr.
good evening. Chad Ansel, Community Engagement Coordinator. Before I get started, I want to introduce some important people in the room. Chad Robinson, the Director of Matheson Memorial Library. Adam Swan, the brand new city administrator as of about a month now, right?
Yeah.
Welcome, and Chris Clapper, the Director of the Chamber. A little background on the community grant writer is Chris and Kate, who she works with, brought this to me about 8 months ago, we talked or so, right? From a conference. And it sounded like a really unique opportunity, and so I wanted to share it here with all of you. And we'll see where we go. So I hope there's also another sublink on there that has a job description. I don't know if you were able to see that under it.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, consideration given to a grant writer position in partnership with the city, the chamber, and the school to, provide kind of an all-inclusive approach to grant writing, and that we know that economic development and city events and our parks and our downtown and our appearance of our community play a big role in attracting families and people to our community, as well as that grant writer to be able to assist the school in different ways. So that's kind of how we got started on this, and obviously to identify and procure the grant opportunities with that mission of all agencies being involved, not just the school, not just the city, not just the chamber, but kind of that all-inclusive approach of how can this affect our city and the community as a whole in a positive way, and to help to fund things, obviously, that will provide the finances and sources of capital to make improvements in those areas. So yeah, some of the benefits are obviously the finances and sources of capital that might be unavailable now to initiate or expand programs, enhance already strong partnerships. We already have great relationships and partnerships with the library and the city and the chamber and other organizations within our community. And I think something like this can help enhance that even further. Obviously grants are an attractive way of financing because oftentimes they're monies that don't need to be paid back. And as well as economic improvements to create opportunities and benefits for all agencies involved. Go ahead. Just kind of some of these benefits are different ways that they can affect it, whether that's marketing, events, increased travel, showcasing our community and what it offers. Certainly enhancing the school system, park system, recreation, downtown, things we've kind of touched on initially, but I think looking at maybe different ways to do that or different ways to improve, whether that's downtown or school buildings or school programming or chamber events, is kind of unique. And those quality of life projects that may attract new residents or residents with children or even without children, but also that kind of housing market that I know we've had conversations before in different meetings, and I'm sure you have, on housing developments in Elkhorn have greatly slowed or stopped. And the influx of our residential population has kind of stayed level. So hoping that something like this could help that improve or that increase. And then obviously return on investment. And by having someone like this, the availability of someone with the expertise and the time to be able to do this and really research, grants that are beneficial or maybe grants that are higher dollars. So we wanted to show you, this is the WAPAC example. And when Chris and Kay brought this back to me, they know the chamber director from up there and said, hey, this is what they're doing up there. It seems pretty unique. And I think this example in their annual report really shows the benefits and what can happen when this works. So if you click on, yeah. And I thought their annual report was really well done and well organized. They have only, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but this is their first year with this.
First full year.
Complete.
Their full 12 months. Prior to that was like only 9 months into it.
So they kind of broke it down into their projects that are underway. And I think as you kind of look through, you can see that they're somewhat diverse in who they directly affect, although it affects all the entities. Anything from the downtown, a weight room improvement for their school. Yeah, if you just keep scrolling, Jason, please, and then potential projects. So reporting on, hey, here's some things that are out there that I haven't maybe applied for yet, but that are available, or things that they want to work towards. travel, tourism. I think for me, when we get to beyond the projects, and I think you get the idea that, you know, they're pretty inclusive to all the agencies. When I look through them, like dollar amounts aren't always equal, but there's things and opportunities that they go after for that affect each agency that maybe more directly than others. But when you get to the, Jason, could you scroll to the data at the end? Yeah. So I mean, in a year, this is what that person accomplished, which to me seemed very impressive. You're like, wow.
This, if I can interject,
Yeah.
this is, we were concerned, and when I spoke with Terry is a friend of ours that's from Wapaka, and it's a county chamber, but Wapaka is only 50,000 people, the county itself. So we're 104. So I look at, that could be double. And this individual just happened to be looking at getting towards their retirement age. This is you can go out there and Google or go on Indeed, and there are some grant writers that pull in 200,000 plus bonuses. So you're either going to, in what we've described in our job description, you're going to get someone right out of college that is going to hopefully be aggressive, and you have to teach them your community and understand what your needs. But there are a ton of resources out here. Believe it or not, we have quite a few grant writers that you didn't know were grant writers in our own community that are looking at, you know, a few of them have looked at that application, and because we invited them to critique it, to say, are we looking in the right place? Or you could be getting someone who is looking at slowing down and not beating that pavement all the time, but yet invested in the community. So I think this is an amazing opportunity that could come to, you know, our Elkhorn Area School District. And that's what we're using as the footprint. And there's a lot of different things that could be done with this that could ultimately help every one of us in the long term, whether it's our children, our grandchildren, or just making our community an awesome place to live, work, and play.
And the reason why we propose it through the school district, through the Fund 80 Community Service Fund, is we're the only taxing entity for ELEC that has that flexibility to expand the revenue limit for community service purposes, which explicitly have to go to benefit the community as a whole. So we have that ability. I know Wapaka didn't do that, but I believe when we spoke to them and asked them, they kind of just thought, oh, we didn't think of that. So they're exploring that now because it's just a lot cleaner, easier to function and roll that.
Have they reached out to you, Bill?
Yes.
Okay, have they?
Yes, I talked to their business.
Okay, because they were like, what? How are you doing? And I'm like, well, I don't know your details, but here's the gentleman's email and phone number.
I have a question because you're talking about Wapaka being the county. In here, any description we have has nothing to do with the county. It's Elkhorn
District
basically
area.
based, area.
Yeah.
So is there a reason this is being proposed as opposed to counties such as Wapaka?
Because they have their chamber and their chamber was receiving monies from all different entities beyond their school district or beyond their zip code. So that's why they incorporated that.
They started from a donation.
And it was funded from a donation from someone from Wapaka County
Okay.
that made
Okay.
the initial,
All right.
that paid for the position.
Okay,
From
that's why I asked,
Mhm.
because this is a lot narrower.
Yes.
Although,
I think what's unique though is, you know, you look at, yeah, it's a unique position, but you look at the percentage of the city and go, oh, well, wait a minute. But yet, when you look at what a thriving community does for a district, that makes some sense, right? Like those big dollars may end up on the city end of things because that funnels into your schools, right? The more people that want to be in your community, the more people that attend your schools. When those two work together, we know that good school systems also bring people to communities. So yeah, it makes sense. And I don't know, I've tried looking for other communities that have done this, and I am unable to find anyone in Wisconsin
We have not found anyone else.
that have ventured into this. But Wapaka seems to have made it very successful, and I think even my position at the district was very unique. But 4 years later, guess what you see? It's making waves of people going, oh, guess what? Wilmot hired a community engagement coordinator. Oh, guess what? This school, hired a PR marketing person. And so, yeah, to me, this is just like another front end. Wow, we could take advantage of this opportunity that maybe seems out a little bit, but yet we seem to have had some success being on the cutting edge.
And I think if you take that 1.7 or almost 1.8 and really read through a lot of those, you could take many of them and divide it by 3. And it's affecting the school district, it's affecting the chamber all in different ways. So I understand it basically, when I asked Terry about that, it basically comes down to where the bucket of the money goes to, who becomes the fiduciary of those funds or how it's distributed amongst them. So that's how they kind of made the cross population.
Well, that's where you need a good business person.
Yep.
We know a guy.
Yeah, we know a guy. To be able to figure all that out for auditing purposes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there a lot, I see there's a grant for downtown development. Do you have any idea what that was for? I guess I'm just looking at Elkhorn is lacking in creating new businesses. We know that the housing market's kind of stabilized, but if businesses would be great to have some new businesses.
Boy, I wish this would have been here last December, because we had an opportunity that the city of Elkhorn had a application with the state where they could, it was in a community development fund, and then it was pulled back by the state. And it went back to the state, but they regionalized it. And we had an opportunity, that's where you got some ADA money that Adam's probably really unaware of at that being the new guy. We were going to take the Circle of Friends building and we wanted to purchase that.
Sure, right.
But when it came, we were awarded it. We were this close. But when it came to the final numbers, we need to get final hard numbers. We came up $400,000 short. And we had an opportunity to apply or beg and plead the council to give us an opportunity to find that money. It could have made a difference down on that end of the South Wisconsin Street.
And we already know it made social media.
Yeah,
Recently.
I understand that. So, there's plenty of opportunities, Barb, and if you can't tell, I'm just like the presenter earlier. I'm very passionate about this, and I think this is something that, working with John has been a great asset in the position that you created here. I just think that we could do some really cool things.
For just to have transparency with it as well, if this individual comes in and starts acquiring grants, millions of dollars of grants to manage, likely would also need to add another staff from bookkeeping and so forth. But many of these grants allow up to a certain percentage to be for administrative costs. So if you're doing $5 million in grants, and up to administrative costs can be, on average, I typically see 10%.
That's what you see.
So that's, doing the math, that easily would cover additional support to manage that, because Bill doesn't have on his bandwidth plate to funnel and manage all that. But that's where it could also perhaps benefit the district as well, is there's a lot of time that was sucked up in managing like the youth build grant. There may be some crossover and being able to have that staffing or that office help with some of that assistance. Or Kelly was just awarded another community learning center grant, which is $80,000 a year for 5 years. So there's, I think, a lot of potential out there. I think larger grant sizes for city entities are much larger than school districts, but I think overall it could have a big impact and probably be self-sufficient in a rather short time in regards to being able to cover the cost for the personnel and management.
I can see definitely the potential of this, but we're being asked to prove a position that we don't know how it's being funded, who's funding it. Is it strictly being funded through the school district and the city benefits from it and doesn't have to pay anything toward it? Or
So,
I guess
Yes, we'd
Yeah.
be using the community service fund, which is exactly for that, to provide service to the community and those entities. So
the partnership becomes, the oversight of that position becomes the partnership of someone from the chamber, someone from the school, someone from the city. With the oversight and direction for that person to go, here's our vision as a whole, here's where we'd like you to focus on, or here's where we'd like to direct you to now. Chad at the library has been so gracious as to offer that he has the availability of an office for that person. And it's an entry from the side, so you don't have to go through the library, you just enter into some office spaces. And I think we have an advantage that our city, school, library, chamber, civic group partnerships in Elkhorn are very strong already, and they're already advanced. We're not making new partnerships to do this, we're just enhancing partnerships that we already have in so many other ways.
is there incentive for the individual to be, would part of the salary be paid based on percentage of what they bring in? That's typically how most grant writers are
Could
funded.
be, that's an option.
Most grant writers are paid based on how much money they bring in. So
we discussed that, and if we were to do a percentage, we would probably want to put a cap as well, because
right.
it should be,
Yeah, I guess that was my point.
That's
I
when
mean,
we were looking at the different salary structures and that, but I don't think that's terribly uncommon to have. Here's a salary with the incentives on that. There's pros and cons to when we're looking at it. And sometimes you don't necessarily want someone chasing grants that aren't necessarily beneficial, but hey, this is gonna give me a high reward on my return, so.
Well, they would need that, that's where the governing board would would
Prioritize
that.
Prioritizing is what I
Yeah.
see being.
Because I think it's gonna be, important for that person to get connected right away with groups like Elkhorn Economic Development and things like that, to know and get a feel for what are the needs of the city, and for the partnership group to go, here's places you need to be in, meetings you need to be in, to get a feel for where is Elkhorn going, what's Elkhorn's vision, what's the school's vision, what's the city's chamber's vision, what does Chad want, because we don't want to leave Chad out.
Thank you.
But, so I think that guidance is crucial. And just kind of throwing up some questions. Most of these we've covered, but the library's offered space, the partnership, the oversight, that shared commitment. I would guess, talking to Mr. Dedlock and Mr. Truen, that, the agreement with the agencies would look much like the school resource officer agreement that we currently have with the city police department. Yeah.
Has Senta, has Senta been brought in too for mental health?
Is she aware of the position?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would just think that her
Working on
position,
this.
she could benefit as well to have some funding.
Yeah.
To give her the resources to,
Absolutely.
Yeah, agreed.
I
Yeah.
mean, not only Elkhorn, but
The school.
the whole
Yeah.
idea was
Right.
mental health was for the county.
Right.
Or the church, early childhood literacy.
Yeah,
Right.
the list goes on and on, but yeah, there's,
I think it's endless, or like there's no border on what it could be,
Yeah.
right?
I think the one I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And maybe this has been said, but I think that the ability of additional collaboration between all of these entities and really doing it consciously. Because I know in the day-to-day grind, we're all dealing with our stuff.
Yeah.
And we don't always think of the other entities.
Right.
And, you know, for example, I know the city received a grant not too long ago, and it was really more ADA park kind of related, doing some improvements there. But I'm thinking, well, if some of this was playground related, could we have collaborated and done it with the schools at the same time?
Right.
Not that they wouldn't have done that, but
Right.
was this someone wasn't there to kind of, hey, what about
Put it
other
together.
benefits?
Right.
It's a small example. but-
Chris, in the example of Wapaka, do you know, did they hire somebody with a lot of experience or did they hire a college graduate?
It was somebody looking to, slow down in life.
Okay, so they hired somebody with experience.
They had experience. Mhm.
I guess that would be my request, is that we hire somebody with experience.
You'd have to find that, you
You have
know,
to, I think you have to look at the
Is it-
quality of the candidates.
Is this a
So-
full-time position? Is it someone now?
Being a full-time.
It would have to
How
be.
many grants do you think this person would write in a year? I mean, roughly, I mean, obviously that's impossible to say, but.
But it depends, like if it's a smaller one like we just had here, compared to one that's a,
Yeah,
you know, a huge,
they all take a different amount of time.
right.
Depending on what you're-
Yeah,
If we go back to the Wapaka one, how many grants did that person write in that year?
I think what's
That would be-
important too
that would
is
be
that there'd
awarded.
be the
That's what I
expectation.
meant,
of
Yeah.
awarded.
seniors.
That's, yeah, that's what they were awarded, not
Right.
what they wrote.
Yeah.
I think it would take you a few years to see if this would be viable. I mean, I don't think you could necessarily tell that very first year.
This
I think
example
the
is
next one is
1.5
the
years.
awarded.
Yeah,
is,
1
that's
year,
the
9 months.
stage.
Yeah.
I'm just always worried
Yeah,
when we
but
say we're gonna hire somebody that's slowing down.
So pending and then must have been.
Well, if it's full-time,
I mean,
I'm not suggesting that we do that. I'm suggesting that we hire somebody
I'm not-
that has
I'm not saying
grant
against
writing
what Chris said
experience.
there.
I'm not comfortable hiring a college graduate who's never done grant writing.
I mean, I agree, you want somebody with experience, but I don't necessarily never want to really hire somebody that's just
Awarded,
slowing down.
so-
Like, just saying that. is-
well, if it's full-time
Negative.
position, then I would say. no.
Matt, an answer that person's the equivalent of my age.
Well, I mean, but you're not slowing down.
Very young.
I mean, you're-
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
young, you're still working.
Chris, you're not.
I'm not slowing down.
I asked that pointed question of Terry and
Age
happens
has
to
nothing to do with
know
it.
what
I
it
mean,
was.
It could be
So we'll just put it that way.
Let's say they're traveling a lot right now and they don't want to travel. I mean,
Yeah.
I
It could
think
be
you
somebody
could
that's
get that-
45 and
the thing is
independently wealthy or
slowing down.
55. It doesn't, age has
This
nothing to
was
do with it.
22 awarded grants that are listed here for that year.
Okay.
So 22 awarded, well, in my experience, a good grant, an experienced grant writer knows how to read the rubric, knows
Yes,
it's pretty
right.
straightforward, knows
Yes.
how to network to see
Right.
what are they looking for, knows not to apply for grants that they're not going to be considered for, and can really get grants at a fairly high success rate.
Correct.
In the
And a lot
writing,
of
they
language
know
ends
how to
up
do
being
that.
boilerplate, you know, like
Right.
they can transfer language from
But you
one
know,
grant to
I did
another.
some when we had the flooding and I had to do, we tried to do the FEMA, it didn't work. So we had to go to two different state ones. They were both from the state of Wisconsin. They were two totally different animals. I had applied for this one, totally tear everything apart, every piece of it, and re-put it together to apply for this one. It took forever because I wasn't used to doing it. I did it and we got
Yeah.
like $120,000, but it took a lot of time.
Again, that experience.
Yeah,
It
may-
allows
would make
people
a
to be
difference.
more efficient.
Right.
Well,
I agree with the experience. I just, when we say something like, well, we're looking for somebody that's slowing.
Oh,
I just,
I don't think.
I think if we want
I
somebody
did-
to
I
do it,
should-
then we want them to do it. I mean,
It's
it's
a
just
different
like,
term.
we want them to be all in.
Well, but again,
You
if
know,
you're gonna look at the quality of the candidates, if the candidates aren't there, we're not going to hire someone. If that quality of person is not there.
Yeah, and I think what you might be saying, someone who's very experienced, maybe they're traveling 80% of the
Yeah.
time.
Right, that's what I'm
Maybe they're
saying.
doing stuff like that, and they're like, you know
Yeah.
what, I just want a job where I can go to
That-
work, I can
That's a
stay at
different
home, I
situation.
can stay
That's
close,
true.
that would be
That way.
very experienced with slowing down. But I can also see it, I think it depends on how we're willing to structure that contract. At the end of the day, a high quality grant writer will pay for themselves
Yes, right.
through some of the stuff that we can bring back from administrative fees and costs.
100%.
But, and also I don't know, I know a high quality grant writer who's not gonna come down here from CISA 6, but she's probably, you know, the bulk of her work is just salary from CISA 6, and she's probably around 130,000 a year from
Yep.
CISA 6, but she pays for herself
Yep.
in spades because of what she brings in
Right.
to that region. I'm not suggesting that we go and post that. I think but if there's a lower wage, I think there's gonna be a higher expectation for a higher percentage. At the end of the day, we might be paying more going that route, but there's perhaps less risk because it's incentivized through the payment.
Is there anything in the cooperation that if it doesn't work in so much time, it can be dissolved and it's not on the school district? That's what I would like to
Well,
see.
what makes it cleaner with us being
We're in
the
charge.
fiscal agent and technically it's our employee, the district would have the ability to dissolve at any time.
But we also don't want to hurt community relations. I mean, I'd like to see something that,
I think that's where we could go and visit with the chamber and the city and say,
Okay.
we're just not seeing the value added from this. We need
Okay.
to revisit
Given the
this
fact that you guys
structure.
are using your funding authority to be able to pay for it, I don't think the city's gonna get upset because you're like deciding that it's not worth, I mean,
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that, I should say, the city appreciates the fact that Jason reached out in the first place and John reached out and wants to work with us because, having those good community relationships between the schools and the chamber are critical. And I appreciate that because sometimes there can be a tension between all these partners. So I don't think there's gonna be flack from the city because
okay.
you
I
decided it
just,
was
I just
not.
want that kind of be an agreement though, ahead of time, that it doesn't create this, because this could be all new people. All around
Sure.
the board, and so I don't want any misunderstanding is what.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if we try it for a year and it doesn't work, it's still a net positive because we tried it and probably the person got some sort of grant money, so we're still hopefully ahead. But
Are we gonna ask this person to take over the grant writing that we're already doing for the staff that are working?
So that was on YouTube.
Right.
Because I wonder if there's gonna be these, especially people who have been writing grants for a long time, they're gonna say, well, I write the grant better than this person, so I'm just gonna do it myself.
Yeah,
Are they gonna take
like,
over?
I don't see, well, to be frank, we don't have a lot of, for a district our size, we don't have a lot of active grant writers in our district, in my opinion.
I would say Kelly would be probably one of the.
Kelly, obviously,
Yeah,
writes
she's quite a
more
few.
than
Yeah.
most.
Right.
There's a handful of other ones that we'll get, but DPI and school districts have some really simple ones where it's like, I don't know, the school mental health one. I think I clicked 3 buttons and signed it and you got,
Oh, wow.
30,000
Oh,
a
I
year.
could do those.
So, there's no need to ship that over to the
You
grant
have to
writer.
tell
and
us
things
that.
like
You're
that.
so impressed.
Oh.
We're all. I mean, really.
For hours.
Right?
No, but I think, and then there's little simple ones, although Coles hasn't done it, like the field trip grants or things like that, which are one, so I don't see those going to the grant writer, but I could see, because, for Kelly to be honest, like the youth build grant, she has that knowledge on what she's written in the past, she knows what's successful on it,
Right.
but she may want support from the grant
Right,
writer, so
right.
she's a full-time principal,
Can I
that's
say
part of
here,
the
take
problem
this?
is
Right.
Yeah,
when you're
Another
doing
full-time
these other full-time jobs, who has the bandwidth to take on a really
Yeah.
well,
robust
and when you
grant?
see though, if it's a continuation one, if you see examples of where we've been at, that really helps you be coming forward to other ones.
But I could see a lot more integration with things like, the district nurse on health initiatives with, sorry, Patty, the parent
Paywoods.
connections
Yeah.
position. The
Sure.
early childhood literacy in that piece given and was sent to, on the, mental health and the resiliency and so forth.
Yep.
I see there's a lot of potential there. We've really struggled to get, teenage drug treatment programs that
Yes.
since has been working on for 2 years, but
Yeah.
getting supports and there, things like that, I could see tie-ins. A lot of literacy grants and so forth between the library and the school district. I could see a lot of those.
Can I just ask you, because you are new, but has this been approached to council? And what are their comments?
Well, that's a perfect segue because Jason will be attending the council meeting, second meeting in June to talk about not only this, but talk about just concerns about, residential housing being an issue. And so I know he's gonna have an opportunity to get the council feedback at that time, so.
We can speak to our,
I was-
informally, Chris and I, met and threw the idea in front of Bruce, the mayor.
Yeah.
Just like, what do you think about this idea? When the city's, cost obligation came up in our conversation, he was all.
Okay.
You took everybody in there.
At that point,
It was a clean sell.
Right.
there.
Well, but sometimes, I mean, I've seen things in the city where it's a no-brainer and it is just,
Right.
yeah, it has not gone.
Yeah, so
that's
June
why I asked.
20th, is June 20th, correct? Yeah, I'll be at the city council meeting. I'll present that. I also did a housing survey to our open enrolled families again, that I want to share that data with the city as well on that housing, the need. We have approximately 800 open enrolled students in the school district, and over half of those open enrolled students, the parents would prefer to live in Elkhorn.
Yeah,
great.
So you're talking, it's probably about, 200 to 300 that are looking on the outside looking in, wishing they could have a place in Elkhorn, not have to be open.
And I believe in having a strong administrator also helps the council understand the history and the story behind everything as well too. So I'm hoping to see that.
So how much money has the school brought in the last year without a grant writer in grants?
200,000? I don't know what was the portion of the youth bill.
I think it was one
That's, yeah, that.
It's not counting like the Medicaid and Medicare or the
Right,
other
no,
federal
right,
grants,
right.
just in addition to maybe 300?
Yeah, please.
It is.
There's a lot of funding we get, we call grants, but they're like entitlements. So like the title,
Okay.
grants.
Oh,
We call them
okay.
federal grants, but they're entitlements, we have allocations, and they just don't give us the money because we have to go through and, EVG's real involved with that and putting together the application process, but as long as we meet the criteria, then that money's eligible for, so it's not a competitive grant.
So not counting that, I have to probably around 300,000. Now, next year, we're getting a lot of Project Lead the Way grants because a large corporation in the Burlington area made available several $1 million for regional schools to help support Project Lead the Way. So we're getting,
So who is like applying for those?
like the 3 elementary schools got 10,000 each. The options got 80,000.
Well, did someone have
Which
to
was
apply for that?
Not to
or they-
minimize how difficult that grant was to apply for, but it was slightly more difficult than the one that I applied.
Okay, well, that's what I was.
Yeah, they weren't, there's some grants that are competitive and there's some where there's so much money there that you put it in, it's not really competitive.
Yeah.
So, but I got the top of my head, probably about 300,000 a year.
And how are we finding those right now? Like, how is that even?
They just come in through emails.
Okay.
And opportunities like that. We're not really going.
You're not looking for.
Right, but I
Attending
think
the
a
right
grant writer
meeting,
knows
being
how
at
to
the right
do that.
place when, they shared about the Project Lead the Way grants.
Yeah.
We
Good.
hosted another school and the director's like, oh, by the way, Elkhorn, you guys should, this grant's
Yeah.
available. So,
Yeah, a good grant writer is gonna be able to research that pretty easily and find opportunities.
So is there a budget in mind for the position?
Hey, I guess that's what I'm
They're not
going
We didn't buy anything.
with my questioning. What's the budget?
yeah, roughly looking at this position, if it were posted as listed on 80, I believe when we were projecting that, it'd probably be close to with salary benefits and everything in that upper $80,000 to $100,000 range. So I don't know, Bill, is there a specific number that You were looking at?
I think that's the figure we put
That's
in
with
the
benefits?
projected budget that we developed at this point. That hasn't been shared with the board, so.
Right.
But that was early on when we were looking at what these kind of positions would be, so.
I think that's low.
Yeah, what I plugged in there was 110, if I remember right.
With benefits?
So it's still a little low. my opinion.
There's always a possibility to recoup something the administrative costs from the grants if we need to
Right.
go above that to not put it in the funding.
Okay. That's true. Could we fund it that, I mean, can we kind of
We have some balance there.
create the position to partially be funded by us and partially based on administrative fees that are collected through?
And anticipated.
Yeah, and,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
Because we
Right,
have
anticipated,
to come in, right?
It's
yeah.
really, a lot of
Right,
that's
because-
reimbursed kind of
correct.
thing, so. It's one of those things, until we get going with it, and some of the detailed questions are hard to answer.
Yeah.
It really is.
So how did they fund it in Wapaga?
That was
Do you know?
money donated.
It was money
Oh,
strictly
money
donated.
Okay, got it, you're right.
But
you're
that
right.
was for, if I remember right, Chris, correct me, they funded it for a year and said, we
1
want this to continue.
Yeah.
But it's up to you to
Needs to be
figure out how to fund
self-funded
it.
after that.
beyond
Oh,
that year.
okay.
Yep.
That's why Bill got a phone.
Phone bill.
Yeah, right. Make it work.
Yeah, so I don't think, can you go back to the presentation real quick? I think that was it, if I remember right. I think we-
Yes, that was
yeah,
it.
8 was it, yeah. Yeah, I guess I just, thank you. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Concept.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I want to thank, Chad, Adam, and Chris for coming to the table and listening and being open to the idea, and Chris to bringing the idea
Yeah.
our way, and
I love thinking
Yeah.
out of the box. I
yeah,
think that's why our school district's in the position we're in, is because we've had people thinking outside the box.
I find it interesting that some things that you guys have done in the last 4 years are, all of a sudden you hear about it in other
Yep.
places, or
Yeah,
I
right.
often get phone calls that's like, tell me how this works.
Yeah.
What do you do? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's progressive thinking.
Well, I'm just gonna take my 20-second plug, just to thank you guys for what you do in terms of, putting this aside. I'm constantly amazed, everybody I talk to, they're always raving about the school. It seems to be the number one thing that people really say is great about living in Elkhorn, and talk about the school district. So you guys are obviously doing something really well. And I have to say, on just a side note, when I was looking into Elkhorn, and I saw you guys had a good school district, that tells me it's a community that I wanted to work for, because people then care, and they're care about the community. And obviously that field house you built on the side note is amazing. So I had a friend of mine.
The Agility Center, not a
I just had a friend of mine actually visit this past weekend, and we drove by, and he's like, "Good grief, is that?" I was like, "Yeah, that's high school." So, but anyway, so I just want to thank you guys for what you're doing, and I know everybody raised about the job that Jason's doing. So anyway, I'm really excited to be working with the school district, hopefully going forward. So.
Chad, want to say something? You really haven't talked.
Well, yeah, just thanks for the opportunity. I think that grants are such a important and yet difficult thing that in the course of your normal duties, it's very difficult to not only locate those grants, but to pursue them. And unfortunately, the amount of effort you make on a $2,000 grant is the exact same effort you make on a $20,000 grant.
Yep.
So, if I'm going to be mercenary about the library, yes, we love having access to this person, and we'd like to run a couple of ideas by them. But I think that what you mentioned about this kind of being a cooperative effort between so many diverse entities is very much within the spirit of Elkhorn, and something that the school board is uniquely suited to do. So I heartily, endorse this, and we would love to have this person in our building. So thank you.
Awesome.
I remember in the past, a few years ago, when the city, when the school district tried to work with the county on something, and it was like pulling teeth. And this is long before you were here. And it ended up not going anywhere. It was disappointing because it was a great idea. And we moved way beyond that, so it's great to see that, trying to work together is what we should be for the city and for the community.
Just set examples for kids.
Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
what I like about it and all of these positions, I had a boss, Mrs. Thompson in New Glarus, and she would always tell me, she said, Jason, we don't want to be the trailblazer. We want to be the person right behind the trailblazer.
You too.
And there's a lot of wisdom to that.
Yeah.
And so if you look at our unique, that's why I claim I never have an original idea, or we don't, this isn't original. There's already been trailblazers on it. There's not another person.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we have a model that we can follow, they've proven is successful, and
You
we
know,
can
when the
follow the
county,
lead. It
when the
makes it a lot
county
easier.
first went to administration, I don't know if that person lasted a year before it went out the window and they got someone new in, because they didn't know what they were doing. It was, you know, they weren't set up, they weren't prepared for what they wanted. They didn't know. So, yeah, again, we're following someone's great idea.
And I will reiterate the fact that I know that my board is excited about this because, you know, we applied for some grants and things and the amount of time that it took for
I mean,
My
like
two-
between food trucks, you're writing them.
our two people on staff, that would be great. And I know that Wapaka would be more than willing to share. I mean, they've been more than willing to, I mean, they gave us job description, they gave us everything behind the scenes that they could. So once again, I think we've hopefully laid a path that we've taken some of the big stumblings out of it. And we would be just very grateful. I think it would be an amazing opportunity for our community, not just, you know, myself or Adams. You know, and I think you're looking at 4 individuals here that, Adam, you're the newbie, so I'm gonna fill you in here. But that all get along very well and that can come, you know, John's like, hey, what are you trying to ask me to do here? And I'm like, come into the office. Come on, we need to talk about this. And, you know, the excitement's there, and I think it could be just an amazing thing. How it comes to fruition, I'll then allow that to this governing body. But I would say that however you would want to understand, a mutual understanding from all of us, you know, as far as the overseeing of the person or input, I'm in it to bring it back to the community. So
Is this something we would have to add to the or do a referendum? No?
Yeah, no,
Not under title.
Okay.
None of that funding.
Okay.
I like the idea. I think it's something that we need to support. Unfortunately, financially, we're gonna have to support that first year, and hopefully after that,
2 years.
well, that's why I said, so,
it'll pay for itself.
We have to commit to 2 years though.
Yes.
So, like,
Yeah, I agree.
maybe not with the same person
I
for 2
think,
years.
I
but
think
stay
this,
together for 2 years.
this year we can probably figure it out financially,
that was my next question, is
but
can we
in 2
work it in the
years,
budget?
I feel like if we're gonna do this, we gotta do it now, so that we can have it up and going, so that in 2 years, when we are gonna, you know, face some issues, that it's paying for itself by then.
Right. You know, using Fund 80 obviously is the mechanism that makes this work.
Correct.
Because it's outside the revenue we have. right?
Correct.
If it wasn't, then I think we'd have a larger discussion, how does this fit into
Yeah.
our visions?
Yeah.
You all are aware of that, but.
Yeah.
I think strategically, even if we don't have the total funding in next year's budget, I think we have some balance in funding we could use.
Okay.
And if we had to adjust that, maybe in year 2 or 3, I think there's some flexibility within Fund 80 to do that.
Okay.
So what do we have for a timeline if we're looking at approving this tonight? There must be a general outline.
Well, the funding, I guess, I was looking at that after, not starting prior to July 1.
Oh, it's gonna take that
Beyond
long.
the
It's gonna
following
take that
fiscal
long
year.
to
Right.
get,
It's gonna take that long to find somebody anyway.
Is there anything more specific than, not that it was a bad presentation,
Right.
but I mean, a specific document that states purpose, salary, cost?
I think all that is in that, other link
Yeah, it's in the share.
It's in the, yeah, it's in the,
is the
Job-
job
yeah,
description
job-
without
description.
salary, no salary is put in
yeah,
there.
salary's not in there, but everything else was.
Yep.
is there anything, yeah, it says, Semi-annual reviews by the school district designated chamber, city.
But we didn't approve at a time John's salary either. We approved the job description.
We waited to see what the applicant pool was
Okay.
and what the, because there's a big range
Yeah.
within that.
Yeah.
With the fund aiding, we
Chris, did you
both
happen
jobs
to
were
ask,
there in the same.
did you happen to ask, Wapaka? Okay, so, they've told you all the great benefits. Did you ask them, what are the drawbacks? What are the things that they would have done differently or they?
Great question. It just so happened that this person was from the area. So they knew.
Had connections.
They had.
Okay.
They didn't work, their prior employment was not immediate in the area. They traveled outside.
But
But-
they lived in and knew the community.
They did. So
Okay.
that is, that's going to be a challenge, but that's where I think that we're all here to, I mean, I know that the new guy's gonna have to put some additional time in there, we're all gonna have to put some time into grooming this person because I think the four of us that are sitting here are gonna make this person partly successful. Because if we don't introduce them to the right people or we don't get them involved in certain things in our community,
In the community, then they aren't going to know where to look.
correct, they're gonna struggle.
Sure.
And that's where we had talked about meeting every 2 weeks in the initial part, getting them, Chris, it's your week to take them to Rotary, or it's your EEDA meets this week, school board meetings, city council meetings, meeting park and rec department heads, meeting CENTA, your people, those things.
Going
I
to
think,
the library.
Chad, all those things. It's going to be, we're adding additional things to our plate, but in the expectation of bringing, I'm hoping, amazing things back to our community, so.
Sure.
Julia, I can definitely reach out to them if they had additional stumbling blocks.
Do you know what the salary was for them?
I
What
wanna,
they call CVP?
I did ask, and I know that originally they wanted, I think the first year, the individual had donated like 50,000, and said, if you need more,
I think I've got their contract right here.
okay.
And the first year, the base fee was $40,000, but the employee will be eligible for an incentive payment up to $100,000.
Okay.
Okay, that
I was gonna
Uh-huh.
say, there's no way.
Because
$40,000.
they built in, we talked about this so many different times with Tara, I was just at another conference with her, but a lot of those grants, like Bill said, you could build in an administration fee,
right.
but what they had was like a maximum of that administration fee could go back to that grant writer, like maybe 3%.
Sure.
So the rest went, if they could max it at 10, that other 7 went back to create a fund to
Sure.
continually fund them.
Right,
Yep,
and pay the benefits and
Mhm.
those kinds of
Yep.
things.
Exactly. So I think there's a lot of creativity between these individuals that can make
Yep.
this position work.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear what their,
I certainly can reach out to her, Julia.
yeah. Cause I always think it's good to hear.
Or I do know that she
Circles.
said you can feel, I can, Bill has Terry's contact, and John does too, but I certainly
Sure.
can email her and say,
Yeah.
or she said, if you had a point, she would do a Zoom call or anything like that you might have. But, every scenario is a little different.
Yeah.
So,
If we pay them through Fund 80, we were talking about benefits. Can we do the benefits if they're being paid through Fund 80, our benefits?
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause the other ones are.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the benefits could come out of Fund 80.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, that's,
That'd be part of the compensation.
I'm not assuming anything. I've learned not to assume.
I think the other kind of agreement piece we probably would want to come up with would be like an intergovernmental agreement like
Yes,
6603.
yes, yeah, I think
Yes.
so.
And that piece would
MOU
still
at
have to be
least.
approved by the school board probably
Sure.
at some point.
Yeah, MOU or something.
That makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
Mhm. Okay. All right, good discussion.
Thank you.
Good
Yes,
ideas.
thank you.
I think we should try that.
I think so too.
Hope it does.
Are
I'm
you
sure you'll
looking,
make
are you
it.
looking for a motion?
I am.
Thanks, man.
I move to approve the shared grant writer position as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the shared grant writer position as presented. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart,
I think it's a great start, but no until I find out more.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Yes.
Mr. Martell,
I'll postpone until we have more information as well.
that's a no.
Yep.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mrs. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Ms. Borpego.
Motion carried. So good luck.
We'll be sure to, I understand, Mr. Gayheart and Mr. Martell, where you're at on that, so we'll be sure to get that information, present back to the board as well as after working with the city and sharing the MOU and the 6603. All right.
You don't have to hang around.
Not that you're not exciting, but.
We're very excited.
Thank you very
She
much.
said we're riveting. From a high school student.
Laura and I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah. No problem.
You taking the time?
Yep.
All right, minutes, regular and closed session. Questions, comments, concerns?
You need them separate or?
Paul has one. Well, we should probably.
Paul has the closed session as well.
From both of you?
You guys. Yeah, so-
Oh, okay.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the May 9th, 2022 regular and closed session school board meeting as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the May 9th, 2022 regular and closed session school board meeting as presented. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Yes.
Mr. Martell,
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Ms. Borpego.
Abstain.
Motion carried. General and other fund bills, Mr. Truon.
The general and other fund bills this evening covers checks number 146233 through 146364, wire transfer numbers 1536 through 1540, ACH numbers 591 through 613, in a combined amount of $545,744.95. There was a memo providing some additional information on several of the bills in your board packet. And then following the bill packet is the copy of our treasurer's report for the month of April. And then I think we also included a report on our Fund 21 fundraising and gift accounts, which we have 144. So
That's good
Yeah,
information.
it's a lot.
Questions for Mr. Truon? Hearing nothing. Looking for a motion.
I move to approve the general and other fund bills of May 23, 2022. Check numbers 146233 to 146364, wire numbers 1537 to 1540, ACH numbers 591 to 613, in the combined amount of $545,744.95 as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So moved and seconded to approve the general and other fund bills of May 23rd, 2022, checks number 146233 to 146364, wire number 1537, 1540, ACH check numbers 591 to 613, in the combined amount of $545,744.95 as presented. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Yes.
Mr. Martell,
Yes.
Donald,
Yes.
Mrs. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Ms. Dorville.
Motion carried. Student report.
Last one.
Last one.
For this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This year. We'll see more.
Oh,
No,
no.
oh,
yeah, you can do that next year.
No, you'll have to.
Just no.
We have
I
two
had
new
fun
people
this year,
next
but.
year.
It's
Not that much
Everybody
fun.
else, everybody else have the opportunity. That's great. Okay, so high school, we have a lot of stuff going on lately. In the top left is the Smite Esports team. They placed third in the state championships. Dylan Brandt was voted all conference and Ethan Orwig was named all-state solo player. Ethan also received a $5,000 scholarship to St. Ambrose University to play Overwatch. Underneath the esports team is the exemplary performance awards recipients for the band. Randy, Devin, and Mitchell received these awards individually for vocal, jazz solo, flute solo, and piano solo, and the rest of the students were a part of the percussion ensemble that received an award as well. The boys tennis had their conference matches and they did well. Brody Christensen was the #2 singles champion, and Colin Gayhart and Ryan Jordan were the #3 doubles champion. Also, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, as most of you probably know. Hope Squad had a table at the parent-teacher conferences in early May to spread awareness and inform parents about what Hope Squad does. We've also done weekly announcements. We wear Hope Squad shirts on Monday to spread awareness. We've had activities, and we're gonna have an activity day in 2 weeks where kids can choose different mental health-based activities such as drawing, soccer, napping, different things.
Lauren, how have you liked Hope Squad?
I like Hope Squad. I've been a part of it
It's
since freshman year. I was like one of the starting members. I think it's a really good idea for the high school, and like as we've grown, it's been really good because not a lot of schools have Hope Squad around the state, so it was kind of new and small, but as we've grown, it's impacted students, I can see. At the middle school, students designed and tested cars to protect a raw egg. They learned to calculate the car's speed, acceleration, and momentum. I remember doing that one. It's been fun. The EAMS Builders Club celebrated their success this school year and installed their new officers for next year, so that's growing as well. And a group of incoming fifth graders helped to clean and stain 4 benches for the middle school garden, which I think is cool because they're not even in middle school yet, but they're already helping out there. At Jackson, the 4th graders took a field trip to Old Grove, Wisconsin, and it looks like they had a ton of fun. The kindergartners walked to Matheson Memorial Library last week. Miss Jennifer read them some stories, and the students made collages out of scraps of paper. And the boys varsity baseball team from the high school went and read to the kindergartners last Wednesday. At Westside, the 4th graders had a show and tell day for the letter N, so it's show and tell. They are doing an alphabet countdown to the end of the year. Battle of the Books was able to happen again this year, which is super exciting because I loved that when I was little. Team Cakes, pictured above, they took first at districts at Matheson, and then Mrs. Cruz's kindergarten class celebrated Mental Health Awareness Month by practicing their mindfulness by using their breathing to help them calm down and relax. The bubbles help them practice their breathing. Yeah, they also did that. I think at Tibbetts too. Some of the kids did that. The 1st graders visited Green Meadows Petting Farm. They got to pet lots of goats, play on the playground equipment, and eat lunch outside. The 3rd graders researched different animals and presented their classmates. And the 3rd graders also had the opportunity to visit the Lauderdale Grange Fire Station. They got to tour the station and then talk about fire safety. At Options, their annual art day will be June 24th and 25th. Some of the activities include painting with plungers and blindfolded painting. And Matheson Memorial Library will be hosting the summer reading kickoff on June 4th. Kids will get to meet live animals, toast s'mores, and check out new books. And the CCA, they kind of already talked about it with their Snap-on certification stuff for the tools. They can get certified in 6 different precision measurement trainings. The youth field students finish up the flooring at the Whitewater home. They're very happy now that the AC is working in the house.
Yeah.
And the CCA staff presented on teen suicide prevention during Mental Health Awareness. That's all I have for my final student report.
Can I ask, back at the high school, yeah, you said something about, go back to your notes for the high school. What was the class? Or they won something?
Which one? The tennis, the esports, or the band?
Esports.
Esports. So they went to their state championships and got third place, and then one of the students was voted
What was the scholarship for?
for Overwatch.
Oh, yeah, what is Overwatch? That's what I want.
It's a game.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, they won a
So it's one of the games that they compete
okay,
nationally with at the college level.
okay, that's all I want to know.
And Lauren, after you receive this incredible gift, you're going to regret your decision not to return your senior year. That's okay. You can open that now if you'd like.
Do you want me to take Maddie's and give it to her tomorrow, or do you want me
Sure. You can give it to her.
to? I will see her tomorrow. Aww.
So sweet.
Oh,
Oh,
wow. Very nice. Yeah, I need new pens, honestly. I'm running out of ink, so.
Thank you very much for all your time,
Thank you.
Lauren, and you guys did a fantastic job on your student reports.
They really elevated the
Yeah,
student.
no, seriously, you guys took to a whole new level.
New expectations for next
New
year.
expectations.
I was just gonna say,
definitely.
no going backwards.
They gotta step it up, maybe videos.
I do want to share, this is a trailblazing area, not one that we were right behind somebody. That was on our social worker partnership with the county at CCA. They've been asked to present several times at the national level and the state level. It's going really well. The county covers portion of the cost there is, and then it's that shared partnership. She's a county employee, but works within the Career College Academy, and just gives a lot of insights into the programming, the offerings, bridging those gaps that are there, and it's going really well. So it's a model that a lot of other counties are looking to pursue as well. So, all right.
But we don't want to share our secrets.
But we're not a trailblazer, we copied, so.
I felt so flattered when I saw the DD Tech flyer come out in the billboard on the way to Dalton.
Yes.
Because in education, the greatest form of flattery is plagiarism.
Yes.
So,
Well, the person who's working in that.
Don't
came
tell
from
my son that.
Yes.
Came from Oakland.
Yes, Ashley.
Did you see East Troy has one now too? I was gonna bring it in, I forgot to bring it in. A little, like a 4-page flyer.
I worst case scenario, I think what we do for kids is it's what's best for kids, and
Yes.
that elevates our neighbors and
Yep, right.
forces them
Yep.
to create those same opportunities.
Agreed.
At the end of the day, that'll be good for everybody.
All right. We had a request to table the.
Oh,
Take it
well,
back.
let's go through the,
First reading?
did you want to,
Let's just take it back to committee and then
Okay.
discuss it. And then if there's.
there was
Otherwise,
a,
it's kind of pointless to go through it.
all right, there was a portion on the electronic recordings that we're still getting some more legal clarification on
Okay.
too as well, that I wanted to. So we'll go back to personnel committee. Was there any part of it, Bill, that we had to have?
No.
Right away? I don't think so. All right. So we'll go back to personnel committee, get some more legal clarification on the electronic recording portion, and then bring that back to the board.
All right, recommendations of the district administrator then personnel.
Personnel sheet is there for you to look at. Want to thank Tom Vaccaro for his service in the district. If the name looks familiar, we just hired his older brother
Okay.
recently, and so Tom got mad and quit. No, that's not why.
I should say, what?
He had a job offer that was right next to where he was living, and his significant other works north, and so it just worked out for him there. He'll be missed. He was a very good addition to our special education team a couple of years ago. We also had the resignation of McKinsey and Emma Gunderson as avid tutors. Allison Collins has been selected to work as the elementary behavior specialist. That's Brock's position in the ACE program. She joins us from Wheatland. They are loving me now that we've hired Emily Lind and a couple others there. But she'll be very good there. The Margaret Gruber is joining us as a special ed teaching assistant at Westside. Adam Westhauser as a high school girls tennis head coach. Wesley Rickers is transferring from options over to middle school social studies position. Elizabeth Verdell is transferring to the high school from the middle school to fill a social studies position. Angela Woodside is transferring to Westside, special education teaching assistant. And Emily Bouchette is transferring to a high school special education teaching assistant. And then Ashley Drake, another transfer to the food service administrative assistant position. To my knowledge, all the transfers were requested and or internally applied for.
Questions? Was the motion?
I move to approve the personnel recommendation sheet for May 23rd, 2022, including new employment contracts conditioned upon passing the background check and district mandated drug screening as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the personal recommendation sheet for May 23rd, 2022, including new employment contracts conditioned upon passing the background check and district mandated drug screening as presented. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart?
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll?
Yes.
Mr. Martell?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Mrs. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow?
Yes.
Ms. Borpego?
Yes.
Motion carried. School gifts.
All right, I have one school gift to present this evening. The Elkhorn Area School District Foundation has donated $3,000 for the FCCLA trip and $3,000 for the HOSA Nationals trip.
Looking for a motion to approve or reject.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the generous gift to the EASD Education Foundation as presented. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart? Mrs. Ingersoll?
Yes.
Mr. Martell?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow?
Yes.
Ms. Borpego?
Yes.
Motion carried. 22-23 wage salary adjustments for supervisors, central office staff, and administrators.
Should have in your board packet the wage adjustments that were.
I have request access.
Yeah,
Allow
I-
access.
I can't get any.
No, we don't have
Yep,
access to that.
request access.
Yep.
I requested it.
Oh, I should. Thank you. You too. Need to do that.
It's one or the other. Let's see, I can dig on my purple blankets so you can read it sometime. We have this here. Oh, yes, I am. Look at my career. I learned every one of my days.
I can call mine up. So I guess it's years.
I got it. Thank you.
So what was the?
No, I don't get, I see, I do the supervisors, but not administrators.
Yeah, I don't have access to either one.
Just got supervisor.
Yep, me too. But I will
Is
be
there
there.
anyone with the link can view?
I'm pretty sure it's everything we talked about. Yeah. Doesn't hurt for us to see it.
All right, try, whoops.
Okay, I can see my now. I can see
Here's
my
yours.
mic now.
I don't have access.
Oh, ooh, now I
Yeah.
got, now I got a big
Click
access.
on
to
the-
it.
No, it'll come.
Oh, there it
It
is.
should work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
click on the.
Did they both work?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, I guess.
All right.
Does Paul have access?
That was my fault. Paul, do you have access?
Yep, I got it now.
About that.
Did everybody get emails to the supervisor?
Yes.
Yeah, I got all.
And then the support staff one was just that flat percentage. So I didn't have that one.
Okay, question, read it first.
That's what we talked about the other day.
Yeah, it should reflect what you're discussing in closed session.
Yeah, I don't see any differences in what we discussed. Paul, do you see anything that,
No, looking quickly, it all looks like everything and the adjustments were, it looks like they're what we had spoken about, so. Looks good.
All right. Any further comment?
I'll move to approve the 2022-23 wage salary adjustment for supervisor, central office, support staff, and administrators as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved and seconded to approve the 2022-23 wage and salary adjustments for supervisors, central office staff, and administrators as presented. Roll call.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart?
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll?
Yes.
Mr. Martell?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow?
Yes.
Ms. Borpinkel?
Yes.
Motion carried. Great. Announcements.
All right, a reminder, we have a special meeting on Wednesday, May 25th at 5:00 p.m. Unfortunately, expulsion hearing, so that's not open to the public. Nor you don't have to go to that.
You're done.
All right. We also had need to schedule a policy committee meeting. Joey, want to know, does June 6th at noon work for the members?
I am.
You'll be out of town?
So they'll do all that.
We can
Well,
look
but
at
you
a
know what,
different
if,
date.
if another board member wants to take my place.
I could do it earlier that day, but I'm fine with rescheduling. I have to be at children's at 2.
Yeah, I'm out of town that morning.
Do you want to do it 13th?
I mean, I
don't
might
think
be- I
there's
could
a
be doing
policy
somebody else.
that's pressing, so we can look to a different date.
Let's do like the 13th instead.
13th and 14th.
Or more usual time around noon.
I could do that.
Can we do it earlier? Sorry, I have student, I have to be at children's hospital at 1. 10 would be great.
Would that work for Jason?
Is that okay for you, Jody?
I think so. Squeeze out.
Let's see.
So we'll plan on June 13th at 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
And then CCA graduation will take place at the Grand Geneva Forum this year at 10 o'clock.
Where's the forum?
So as you go up to the main building where they do like State Families does their event,
Yeah.
it's at the very start of that building down on the right.
Like through the lobby area?
You don't even go into the lobby. You
It's like
enter
where they
right
used
from
to have the-
outside.
They have,
Okay.
like,
It's old
You
rock
rent-
wall.
yeah, they used to rent it for like commercial events, right?
I'm sure there's signage.
Like the
I'm just wondering
builders,
where that.
the builders thing used to be in there.
Yeah, parking lots 1 through 4. I just need to know if there's going to be a potential quorum, so we post it.
cannot be there.
I want to be there.
All right.
I might be able to be there. I don't know. Mine's a different.
No breakfast this year. It's, I mean, the school's 100 and, I think they have 170 enrolled right now. So it's
So it's just the,
much larger, so it will feel different. The graduation, I suspect, will feel a little different than in the past where, you know, we'd have buffets, breakfast and stuff, because you had 40 graduates. So now it's closer to 80 graduates.
Great. Jason, just a reminder, I can't be there Wednesday
Okay, yeah.
for the.
For the Wednesday, for the
Yeah.
session.
But I will. I run the game on Thursday, so.
Okay. All right.
All right, so can I get a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Roll call.
We have team.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Yes.
Mr. Martell,
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Ray, Mr. Scarrow, Ms. Borpego.
You know, it's